I just heard of this term, Minnesota nice. I need another, how are we doing, with a little more enthusiasm on the count of 3, 2, 1. Okay, almost warmed up. If you are interested in learning some research-backed ways to motivate employees beyond paying them more money, please give me a big woo on the count of 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're gonna have fun. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm Brie Harvey, Head of Market Research and Community for Achievers. I work with the research arm of our business, which conducts primary research around workforce trends and how organizations can cultivate a people-centric culture that's high-performing, which is what we're talking about today, and something I'm really passionate about, because early in my career, I worked at a place that was so toxic that for years of my life, every Sunday I would think about work and I would feel physically ill. Has anyone ever been visited by the Sunday Scaries? It's the opposite of life-giving. I became so burnt out and dysregulated that by the time I finally quit, I spent the next 2 years and 4 months living out of that backpack, contemplating what would be worse, going back to corporate America or becoming an influencer. My parents were so worried. If someone had told me back then that one day I would be voted by my peers multiple times as the most likely to not shut up about work at happy hour, I don't think I would have been able to believe it. But here I am, 70-something countries later, approaching 10 years with Achievers. Thank you. It's like the modern day equivalent of 30. And I know firsthand that when leaders like you get this right and create the conditions so that more people feel like they matter and like the work that they're doing matters, it's transformative, not just for the business, but for the overall quality of actual people's lives. However, if you follow Gartner's hype cycle for HR technology since the pandemic, you would have seen recognition software go from where AI is now at the peak of expectations and plummet to what they call the trough of disillusionment. And despite the fact that employers collectively spend millions of dollars on rewards each year, about half of employees still feel like their efforts go unnoticed. Does anyone here have employees that feel underappreciated? If you have the sense that your investments in recognition is failing to move the needle on strategic outcomes, know that you are not alone. The theory-practice gap describes the disconnect that can occur when the research is applied in the real world and the results don't match up as anticipated. Has anyone implemented a people program that fell flat? It can be a little easier said than done. Achievers is intimately familiar with this phenomenon in the context of online recognition programs, because over the last 2 decades, we've implemented over 600 reward and recognition programs for some of the world's largest, most complex organizations. And we've been able to analyze literally millions of data points to understand what best-in-class programs do differently at different growth stages. We use a change management framework we call crawl, walk, run that acknowledges changing the collective behaviors and mindset of a group of people doesn't happen overnight. It's similar to constructing a building, but once you have the right resources, alignment, and people in place, the blueprint for success is actually pretty well established. And over the years, we've developed a playbook of best practices. And we know that when an organization is able to execute on all or even most of these items, those reliably end up being our best performing, happiest customers. And conversely, when things fall flat, which sometimes they do, we can pretty much always trace it back to missed opportunities from this list. These themes are underscored by our research with the Achievers Workforce Institute. Our 2025 State of Recognition report digs into the top 5 traits of an effective recognition program. Today, we're going to double-click on 3 of them, starting with the importance of strategically measuring success. When a customer is in a crawl or a walk stage because recognition is still culturally new, we'll typically be looking at program usage metrics and employee listening inputs. We want to know where recognition is low so we know where to focus. But once we are in a run stage, because we've reached full program maturity and recognition is embedded into the flow of work for employees, we'll still continue to monitor program usage metrics. We'll want to keep a pulse on employee listening and sentiment, but we'll start to look for ways to link recognition back to things that we can link to the dollars and cents of the business. We have a lot of examples like this one, which comes from a large retail customer, where we found that when managers recognized monthly, they had teams with an average of 40% lower turnover. Now, although this is interesting, it doesn't tell us anything about causation. Like, how do we know that the recognition stingy managers don't just have the lowest performing teams, who are the most likely to quit anyway? Anytime we can go beyond correlative associations by isolating variables over time, we de-risk recognition being mistaken as a nice to have by the business. We have a customer with a large employee population of call center employees in India, and while the rest of the world was talking about quiet quitting, they had a word to describe when a new hire left for lunch and never came back. They called it quick quitting. So we ran a targeted campaign to encourage more frequent and meaningful recognition of learning milestones, and we saw a 14% uplift in new hire retention within that group within the first 7 weeks. One of our most circulated case studies of all time comes from a telecom customer of ours called Rogers, where we isolated a segment of their employee population of their call center reps. And we offered real-time recognition and micro bonuses for 2 things. One was upsells on insurance packages, and the second was for high service ratings on customer calls, which we measured through Net Promoter Score. Is anyone familiar with NPS? So what's interesting about this example is we weren't introducing a new incentive. Employees were already used to being rewarded for these behaviors, but it was quarterly and via a direct deposit. So the only thing that changed was the frequency of recognition and the transparency. And after 60 days, they saw a 90% jump in upsells, and interestingly, an 18-point increase to Net Promoter Score, while the control group that wasn't involved in the campaign saw a 2-point decrease to NPS. I will say that not all of the organizations that we work with have the resources and infrastructure to be able to quantify ROI in terms of business outcomes, but best-in-class programs continuously look for ways to measure program impact in ways that resonate with stakeholders outside of HR. If you are following, if you're with me, give me a clap on the count of 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's at least 70%. That's pretty good. Returning to our pillars of effective recognition, I want to talk about the importance of entering what we call the Goldilocks zone in terms of striking the right balance between recognition quality and recognition quantity. Because if the people in your business don't know how to recognize effectively, it doesn't matter what technology or tools you have in place, you're gonna be like a salmon swimming upstream until everyone understands there's a huge and important difference between praise and recognition. Praise is like a vague pat on the back that doesn't leave employees with an understanding of what they did that was good. And literally, no one wants more praise, not even Gen Z. I'm a geriatric millennial. I gotta sneak in my jabs where I can. Recognition, on the other hand, should contain detailed information about exactly what a person did and why it matters to the bigger picture. When employees say they want more feedback, most of the time they mean they want more clarity about whether the work that they're doing is being noticed, is correct, and matters on some level. Researchers at Harvard found that out of all the things that can boost motivation during a workday, the single most important is having a sense of progress. Recognition shouldn't be reserved for big milestones and outcomes. It should be about noticing meaningful effort and celebrating small wins. Although there are other factors that are associated with recognition having maximum impact, specificity is probably the most important for quality. Now, I want to turn our attention to the importance of recognition quantity, because unfortunately, recognition is a short-term need that has to be satisfied on an ongoing basis. And in fact, nothing in life works without consistent effort over time. Dentists everywhere agree, if you ignore your teeth, they'll go away. They'll stop working for you so good. It's the same with your employees and recognition. There is a little variance in what different sources suggest is the magic threshold of enough, but our findings are consistent with the broader community in that when recognition is received at least monthly, that's when organizations start to see some of the more transformative benefits of recognition, such as an increase to engagement and performance. So that is the benchmark. We want all of our customers to meet and exceed, averaging at least one recognition per employee per month. But we have a lot of customers who exceed this substantially, Meyer being a great example. The reason why they average 7, almost 8 recognitions per employee per month is not because they have a big rewards budget. It's because they meticulously adhere to all of our best practices, including the reality that leaders and managers can't do it alone. Even before the rise of hybrid and remote work, leaders had exceedingly low visibility into the actual work being done on the front lines. The people in your business with the highest line of sight into the 2-foot level of where work actually gets done are the best equipped to call it out. Organizations have to enlist the help of frontline employees to lift up the unsung heroes among them. What ends up happening once people realize how intoxicating it feels to make someone's day is leaders get so much more visibility in the work happening, which offers them the opportunity to provide positive reinforcement of the exact behaviors they want to see more of. So we recommend targeting for at least 50% peer-to-peer recognition, best in class is closer to 70%. Who here has implemented peer-to-peer recognition and is seeing positive results? Keep your hands up high. Everyone look around. These are the people you want to network with at the coffee break after this. The second no substitutions ingredient for reaching high healthy recognition frequency entails encouraging widespread, enthusiastic adoption of non-monetary recognition. We have a lot of examples like this one, which comes from CVS across their 200,000 employee population, where we basically mapped employee engagement scores to non-monetary recognitions received. And we found that when employees received just one non-monetary recognition per month, they were 43% more engaged than those who didn't. As long as it's quality, non-monetary recognition can be an incredibly powerful way to make more people feel seen and appreciated for their unique contributions at scale. I can say on a personal note, some of the most meaningful gestures of appreciation I've ever received weren't even recognitions. They were comments left on my recognitions, like these two by colleagues, that literally almost brought me to tears. So we recommend aiming for at least 70% non-monetary recognition. An example that kind of ties these two concepts together happened to me about 2 years into my time at Achiever, so almost 8 years ago, when I received this recognition. And let me tell you, I can still remember exactly where I was sitting in the office when I received it, because it was like being struck by lightning. What made it so memorable wasn't just that it was spectacularly detailed. It was because numerous people I respect and care about left these heartwarming comments on it. So it was the emotional equivalent of receiving a dozen recognitions at once. I felt like an influencer going viral for the first time. My dopamine centers were lit. You don't need a big rewards budget to increase the frequency and the intensity of these life-affirming love bombs, but you do need that social, tribal element. Speaking of budget, the final factor that majorly influences recognition frequency has to do with fostering a healthy culture around rewards. You can think of every organization falling somewhere on a spectrum of having a rewards-centric culture where employees are more expectant of rewards, and then there are more rewards-agnostic cultures where rewards are more of the cherry on top instead of the main dish. And we have found one of the most effective ways to ensure that rewards inject an element of fun and healthy gamification instead of being a distraction entails adopting what we call low-dollar rewards. I'm talking like $5, $10 per recognition, which I know may not sound like much, but going back to my love bomb example, we have a feature in our product called Boost that allows end users to piggyback on existing recognitions by adding points to it. And in this case, I had 8 people publicly and symbolically express the sentiment expressed in the recognition by boosting it. So although the total take-home amount of the points was only enough to theoretically buy 1 or maybe 2 things at Sephora, that it was the emotional, that $55 felt like $1 million because it was combined with the high of receiving 15 adoring comments from people I love. So Basically rewards can serve to boost the long-term memorability and emotional impact of recognition, but to the brain, the real reward is feeling meaningfully seen and witnessed and appreciated by the people who have the highest line of sight into our daily struggles and triumphs. If the conditions aren't in place for recognition to be both meaningful and frequent, it's not that rewards don't matter, but they certainly become a lot less relevant. That said, as an employee of Achievers, I've received points for not just receiving digital love bombs, but we get points for referring our friends to work here, winning wellness challenges. So over the last decade, I've accumulated a lot of points, and because our platform allows us to redeem for pretty much anything you can imagine within an online shopping environment, I've been able to redeem for rewards that are uniquely meaningful to me. My favorite way to use my points is through our concierge service, which helps employees redeem for custom merchandise or experiences. And I use them to cover the cost of my hair and makeup for my wedding, as well as our wedding photographer and my dress alterations. I really wanted a second look for the evening that would allow for a lot of static movement. So I used my points to buy this dress from Revolve. Here I am pictured with some of my beloved colleagues who I made sure to publicly thank for being inadvertent sponsors of the wedding. We had an employee from a customer actually expand her family and redeem for the Frenchie of her dreams. Her name is Violet, that's her. I haven't met her, but word on the street is she's a very good girl. The big thing is that employees need to be in the driver's seat of selecting rewards that are uniquely meaningful to them. In 2019, my husband and I were talking about taking a last-minute trip somewhere for New Year's, but the flights were, kind of outrageous, so we were kind of teetering for a few days. But then I remembered I had all these unused points in my account, so I bought our flights to Belize, and it ended up being one of the most memorable trips we ever took, because a few months after we returned, we got the devastating news that he was diagnosed with glioblastoma, the most deadly cancer known to man. And I don't mean to overshare for the sake of it, but those unused points sitting in my account really were the tipping point that allowed us to have one last spontaneous adventure together. A few months after my husband's first brain surgery, he became obsessed with finding me the perfect bike upgrade so we could go on as many adventures as we could for as long as we could. So I ended up redeeming my points for this bike, and we were able to log hundreds of miles together all over California before our time together had to come to an end. And when I look at this bike, it reminds me not just of my husband's resilience and how much he loved me, but for how thankful I am for working at a company where I truly believe in the product that we sell, and for being so good at my job that I get so many points. And although I know it's the frequency and the meaningfulness that transforms the employee experience, providing meaningful rewards can also enhance your efforts to make employees feel appreciated. Okay, let's see if I can wrap up our key takeaways into a neat little bow for you. We scratched the surface on 3 of the 5 traits of an effective recognition program that's optimized for the modern workforce, starting with the importance of measuring success in a way that resonates with stakeholders outside of HR by linking program usage data to business outcomes. We addressed some of the change management fundamentals for maintaining high recognition quality and quantity. We talked about the role of meaningful peer-to-peer and non-monetary recognition and how democratizing recognition can help you create more digital love bombs that can stick with employees for years. And we explored how to cultivate a rewards agnostic culture by leading with frequent low-dollar rewards. And finally, we discussed how personalized rewards at scale can enhance the emotional impact of recognition. One thing I hope was clear is that although recognition is just one tool in your tool belt to drive employee engagement, how you use a tool or a technology is so much more important than what you use. If you're somehow under the impression that a pencil should be used as a hammer, you're not going to think that pencils are very useful. And you don't need to buy achievers, but you need to know that mislabeling the tool of recognition as a nice to have instead of a must have is enormously costly to both employee well-being and employee performance. This is the part of the presentation where you can take out your phones if you would like a copy of the slides from today or copies of the research, the reports that we talked about. Please come talk to me and my beautiful colleagues in the Letterman jackets. We would love to know what this brought up for you, and connect with me on LinkedIn. I get literally my best feedback from this audience, and I would love to continue the conversation. Lastly, I would like to thank each and every one of you. I know that you have busy lives and HR is wearing more hats than ever. So the fact that you took time out of your busy day to be here and learn and grow on behalf of your employees says a lot about you. So let's hear it for you. Thank you.